Hello and welcome to UNIV-ENGLISH channel. This is lecture number 2, a brief history of didactics. Starting with the meaning of the word didactics presented in the previous lecture in all its theoretical and practical aspects, this video presents a short history of didactics and its evolution as an academic discipline. If you have not been here before, then welcome to this channel. If you do like videos like this, then please do give it thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and also smash the notification bell to receive notifications of when I produce more videos like this. Also let me know down the comments what is the biggest problem you are facing right now, so I can use your ideas for future videos. If you are interested, stay tuned to discover the major terminologies, concepts, and skills needed in any teaching learning situation. Didactics may be defined in two ways: as the art of teaching or as the discipline about teaching. In the first sense, the art explains the process as the practical cognitive quality, the inner skill to produce specific tasks. In the second sense, didactics as a science refers to clear, ordered, supported concept in theory. The first accounts of teaching are those of Socrates and Plato. The word didactics comes from the Greek language didaskein. It means teaching, and techne denotes art. This compound word means art of teaching. Socrates taught through questioning, a teaching method known as Socratic questioning, used even to this day. Socrates is generally seen as the first great teacher, and this may be because of his effort to engage students in finding answers on their own, and also because through Plato we have the opportunity to read about his teaching. His ideas have pervaded the educational field and were taken up by other educators. The main focus of his teaching was on how to live a virtuous life. It was told that he inspired his students to think for themselves instead of following the dictum of the society. This method of teaching was made explicit by Plato in the Republic. Plato valued education and the way it changes people. He was known for thinking about an ideal government and society, and believed that to maintain a stable state, it was necessary that all citizens were educated. Plato was known for having ideas about a perfect state, and he believed that education was one of the key to wipe out evil, and achieving this. Because if people were educated and sound, then the need for establishing laws were unnecessary. But if they were uneducated, then the laws were useless. For Plato, education was more than just memorizing facts while sitting in a classroom from youth to maturity. Instead, education was a lifelong process, and even adults could be trained and educated, thus created a system in which even adults were trained. Saint Augustin, follower of Socrates and Plato, adapts in his De Magistro the questions to require an expected dogmatic answer, following the religious approach to teaching and learning. We have to remember that in the Middle Ages, education was the task of monks in church, who also had the key to knowledge, since they were the ones who copied all manuscript by hand, since there was no printing presses at that time. Education in those days was a privilege of the rich and powerful. and it was done mainly as apprenticeship. A young man would be put in the service of a wiser, elder man who would teach him whatever the young person needed to know. The same was true for the different trades that made up commerce in medieval society. Radka was the first to use the term didactics in 1613 in his aphorism Didactici. In this particular work, Ratke conceptualizes didactics as an intuitive kind of learning about reality, stressing the role that induction, psychology, and the absence of pressure have on human experience. He has developed his new teaching system based largely on Francis Bacon's concepts of inductive reasoning from the particular to the general. He anticipated some of the best improvements in the method of teaching which have been made in modern times. He was like many of those who have tried to improve existing methods in advance of his age. But it will be his pupil, Comenius, who will define the field of didactics for the first time in history and who will establish the basis for didactics as a science. Comenius' Didactica Magna 1640, which was written in Latin, a great didactic, sets a series of classical principles for the discipline, amongst which we may count didactics is both an art and a science. Teaching should have as its main aim the learning of everything by everyone. Teaching and learning should be characterized by speed and effectiveness, prioritizing the key role that language and images play in each of the two processes. Comenius wrote the Didactica Magna, expecting that using both a new method and more effective teaching media would make it possible to teach everyone everything both quickly and effectively. Comenius' greatest achievement was the systematization of the construction of didactics as a valid science and art. He sets didactics as separate from pedagogy and introduces the concept of method. However, his approach to the matter is a very specific one. He proposes that each discipline should develop its own didactic methods congruent with the purposes and content of the discipline. This view stands in contrast with the previous proposals, which adopt one sole method that could be applied to any area of knowledge. If one looks at Comenius' proposal, one can clearly perceive a change from standardization to individualization. To him, each person has the potential to learn anything insofar as the right methods and resources are organized in such a way that allow for the person's intuition to come into contact with a specific area of knowledge. Comenius' work will be followed by further efforts towards the individualization of education as those proposed by Rousseau, Pestalozzi, and Froebel. Also, from this moment on, we will be able to perceive a constant swing of a pendulum between two extreme positions. Those who saw education as dealing with the transmission of knowledge via a sole method, and those who saw it as happening via specific individualized means. Incredibly enough, even today, there is no agreement, and neither should there be, because one thing is certain, there is no best method. Teaching should be at the service of learning, and, as Comenius said, teachers should look for all possible alternatives to help everyone learn. These well-known educators of the past played an important role in the development of the idea of didactic principles. They contributed to the development of the methodological foundations, the formation of the structure, and classification of the principles of instruction, the construction of a system of didactic principles. It was not until the 20th century that didactics could ascertain its rightful role amongst the sciences of education, independent from pedagogy, biology, sociology, anthropology, or psychology, Fraboni 1998. During that century, the process of validation of didactics as a self-standing and essential discipline in education haved amongst three main perspectives. A traditional perspective emphasizing a technical and prescriptive view of the process of teaching. This is the era of the method and perpetuates the tradition set by Saint Augustin. A cognitive perspective which positioned the discipline as a problem-solving approach to the task of turning knowledge into an object of teaching. This second view was more in keeping with the view of Comenius and his followers. A new dimension led by Fiori and Lemonnier 2007, which focuses on the analysis of the processes of teaching and learning through specific curriculum contents in order to develop new strategies for the appropriation of knowledge by students in highly situated contexts. The advent of the 21st century has seen different authors, Valido and Kengler, Camilleri, and others, advocating for a reconceptualization of the field which positions it as a theory necessarily committed to social practices which are oriented towards the design, implementation and evaluation of teaching and learning programs, the design of teaching and learning situations, and the orientation and support of students' learning, while identifying and analyzing problems stemming from the teaching and learning processes with a view to providing the best possible learning opportunities for all students and in any educational institution. Giro 2005 explains that a social justice stance is, in part, a disposition through which teachers reflect upon their own actions and those presented by others, rather than passively accepting information or embracing a false consciousness. Teachers take a much more active role in leading, learning, and reflecting upon their relationship with their practice and the social context in which the practice is situated. Today, we honor these teachers who have had a profound impact on the way we teach and learn with deep respect. Teachers are in a position not just to profoundly impact the students they teach, but their influence lives on through generations afterwards.